getting greener in Texas.
That was our left.
Right here.
No, you missed it.
Turn right onto 9th Avenue.
Go straight for 1 mile, then you're gonna take a right.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi guys, I'm Nicolette. Most of you know my boyfriend Brian. What a lot of you don't know is that my boyfriend is also my caregiver. Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about what that entails and how that affects our relationship. Well, right now we're currently on a medical hiatus, taking time off full-time travel to deal with some health issues. My boyfriend and I travel around full-time in our camper van.
This is a camper van. It's a little messy.
We definitely have to do some cleaning today.
Before Nicolette and I get into this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Like this video, it really supports us as creators and travelers on the road full-time.
We're really excited to get traveling again.
Woo!
So why do I need a caregiver? I have a spinal cord injury, and while I can do certain things myself, I really require someone to help me with certain things, especially during hard times like right now when I'm having medical issues. My caregiver will assist me on things I'm not able to do while not being able to stand or walk, and make sure that I'm safe and can navigate life in a safe and efficient way.
How did Nicolette get a caregiver? She had to qualify, and it's based on a few different things. For her, it was being disabled in a wheelchair. Nicolette qualifies for personal assistant services. It's a privately funded program that's managed by the government in Pennsylvania, and you can qualify for this if you have a permanent physical disability. There might be other ways to qualify, but that's how she qualifies. If it wasn't me, it would be someone else. And the personal assistant helps with daily tasks that she might have more difficulty doing. One side note, as we're telling the truth about our relationship and kind of being a little vulnerable about who we are and the dynamics of our life, one side note is if Nicolette and I were to get married, I could no longer be her caregiver, which is big. I mean, we just get married, we're on our honeymoon, and there's some other man there helping her. Like, it just, it really creates a weird dynamic. That's not in every state, but that's the law in Pennsylvania. If we are married, I can't be your caregiver.
We think that's really unfair because in a lot of interabled relationships, it's a norm for your significant other to be the one that cares for you.
Yeah.
It's a really intimate thing, and it's nice to have someone that you're closest to, and that's usually your spouse. So the fact that they take that away, we think is really unfair.
I mean, I'm sure there's someone appropriate we could find if we were to get married, but it affects us in a lot of different ways, and it probably makes Nicolette feel a little less comfortable. And we just kind of like having our own space. It'd be weird if someone else was there tidying up and, doing things for Nicolette. So.
We know how we want things done, so it's easier because we already know what to do. And Brian is the best person to know.
She tells me how things are supposed to be done. We don't know. She does.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I know how I like to do things and how I like to be taken care of. And with Brian and I, it's kind of not even having to be spoke about. It's just kind of natural. What are Brian's duties when taking care of me, and what does he get paid to do? First thing he gets paid to do is to drive me around. And that can be anywhere I need to go, whether it's the store, a doctor's appointment, or just somewhere that I want to go.
You'll find that a lot of these duties are kind of like, what you would expect from anyone that is your significant other. You want someone to be there that's willing to help and go out of their way to be there for you. And the only difference is Nicolette just requires a little bit more attention with some things. And I just think it's normal for us, honestly.
The other duties that he does is help with housework and anything that I can't do there. So Brian will do...
Love this one.
Yeah, he loves this one. He has to make sure that our house stays clean and tidy. One of the major things that I need a caregiver for is just helping me to be safe. So transferring and moving me around and just making sure that when I'm getting out of the shower, I'm safe. When I'm getting into bed, I'm safe, because I can have a fall and it can really be detrimental to my health.
It's kind of like being a spot or actually transferring her myself, especially when we're in different places. Nicolette likes to experience the world, so it's not like she just transfers to the same location every single day. Sometimes we're transferring on the ground of a mine, or onto a hill, or out of the van, or, just many different things. So I have to be there, make sure she does it safely, or just help her get it done. It also helps our life just go a little faster as a couple. Nicolette has to take her time with things, and that's totally acceptable. Some days, I just toss her in her chair and we go.
And it could take me 5 minutes to do a safe transfer, and Brian could literally get me there in 0.5 seconds. So usually he's like, all right, just let me do it.
It's like a convenience thing, but in my mind, I would do this no matter what. It's not because I'm her caregiver, but I also think it's important that she does have the option of having a caregiver.
Some other duties just include obviously more intimate things like showering and stuff we don't have to talk to you about. One of the main questions we get about Brian being my caregiver is why not just hire somebody else so he doesn't have the burden? Well, for our relationship, it's what makes sense. We don't view it as a burden. Brian did most of these things for me before he was ever my caregiver. It's really great to have Brian to be my caregiver because we don't have to have a stranger around. To us being able to help each other, and mostly Brian helping me, is what works best for us. My care is pretty intimate, so it's really nice to have someone that I'm closest to be my caregiver, not having to have a stranger around that we have to get used to. And it's also really hard to find a good caregiver that you can bond with, and that's really important.
This next part is probably the most interesting one. Does it affect our relationship because I'm Nicolette's caregiver? I would imagine that there has to be some effect regarding this. I mean, it has to like affect us in some way, positive or negative.
Every situation affects the relationship, whether, like Brian said, it's positive or negative. So it definitely has effects on our relationship, I'm sure.
I would say, for me, it's more convenient that I'm her caregiver than someone else being her caregiver. So one way it affects us is it makes our life more convenient and easier. We would not be able to travel if someone else was her caregiver. We'd have to be in one stationary location in one city 7 days a week.
And one main thing is that it allows Brian to be able to be home with me. It provides us with extra income. For us, it's just definitely worth it.
If I was career focused right now and putting 100% into, a startup, then I think that it wouldn't be the most convenient situation for us. But considering our lifestyle, our goals for life, it's more convenient that I'm Nicolette's caregiver than someone else. It also keeps me in shape, like lifting someone. She's not heavy at all, but lifting someone daily does really help keep you in shape. So it's good for me.
Keeping your glutes strong.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Brian wasn't my caregiver, we would not be able to travel, like he said. And that was our major thing. We like being free and just being able to do what we love. And we don't want to drag. And we honestly can't drag someone else into this crazy mess.
We can't. Imagine a third person living in the van with us.
Yeah, no.
Just not practical.
They would quit by day 2, you think?
They'd quit the first day. One thing I want to say is it really helps Nicolette and I have a closer relationship as well. It helps us be more of a team, and it helps us know each other's needs a little bit more too, which is good. It's not just like I do for Nicolette because I'm her caregiver. Nicolette plays the role of my significant other as well, and she knows my needs and the ways she can help me as well.
Yeah, Brian takes care of more of like the physical dynamic of our relationship, because he's super able-bodied and fit. I don't know if you ever seen his calves, but he's the physical one. And I'm more of like, I guess, the organizer, I guess you could say.
She's very organizing.
I try to keep us on track. I try to keep a plan, and it really works for us.
We're grateful for it. The one thing we would change is the fact that we cannot get married and me remain her caregiver. We would have to significantly increase our income or just be doing really well financially in order for us to get married, because Nicolette would lose me as a caregiver. She would lose health insurance and different things like that. And that's in the state of Pennsylvania. So it's just tough for us.
Most states in caregiving do not allow your spouse to be your caregiver, which we think is really unfair, because a lot of people are like, why aren't you married? Well,
yeah, I
can't get married without losing all of my benefits or having to hire a stranger to help me with really intimate things, which is just not something that I want to do. Even before Brian was my caregiver, I've always had caregivers that were closer to me, and I just couldn't imagine, while I'm sure I could get used to a stranger, having to go through that process to find the right person.
So one negative, I think, for Nicolette, it's not for me, is what if we're in an argument? All couples argue. What if, at the time we have a time where we just don't want to be near each other? Yeah,
so all couples need space, right? So you're probably wondering, if Brian's my caregiver, how do we ever, successfully get space from each other? Honestly, it's not even, again, something that we think of. So if we are in like a
tiff,
whether it be a mood, we want a little bit of space, or we're just a little aggravated with each other, the caregiving process still goes on. And I think I have a harder time with it than Brian does.
I just do whatever. She'll say, oh, I need this, and I just do it. It doesn't affect me.
I'm like more like thinking like, oh, I want to ask him for this, and then ultimately, like, I always know that he's gonna obviously not think twice about it. So I'm always just like, babe, I need water.
And when she doesn't say anything for a little bit, if we are in like a couple's, little tiff, I'll just say, babe, what do you need?
Like, what do you need, babe?
What do you
and
need?
I'm like, well, I need Twizzlers, water, and I am hungry.
Yeah. Ultimately, we're both pretty positive people, but your partner's going to see your down moments, and she knows that I have her back either way.
Yeah. A lot of people ask us, is Brian being my caregiver bad for our relationship? And I think the answer to that is no. So Brian's really, really caring and nurturing in nature. So it's not really a big task for him to be caring. So in the 2 years prior to Brian being my caregiver and us dating, he did the same things for me and he never thought twice about it. So I don't think it's bad for our relationship. That is how my boyfriend gets paid to literally drive our van around and drive me around. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. We just wanted to clarify something we have not talked about yet on our channel at all, which is that Brian is my boyfriend and my caregiver, and he does get paid to drive me around and help me with other things that I need help with.
I know that some people might be like, oh, he must be in it for the money. Well, I honestly, I was with Nicolette for a long time, didn't even know about this. I just like did the natural things that you do in a relationship, and I didn't get paid. I worked my jobs and things like that. And then Nicolette came to me and said, when we decided we wanted to travel, she said, hey, I think you should be my caregiver. It was the only real possibility, and the money's kind of an added bonus. And, you know, it's not like there's no work involved, but ultimately I would always do for Nicolette no matter what. And one day I'll probably have to, because you can't get married without losing your ability to be your partner's caregiver if you're in Pennsylvania and your partner's disabled. While we do videos like this sometimes, ultimately we're going to be having a lot of adventures, a lot of exciting things going on. Once Nicolette heals up, feel free to ask us any questions when it comes to disability or our relationship dynamic, what it's like to travel, anything really that you have for Nicolette or myself. And if we're comfortable answering, we'll make a video on it. Or if there's enough questions about it, we'll make a video on it.
Yeah, we like being open and sharing all parts of our life. Some things are a little much that people ask, but overall, we're willing to share everything so that we can inspire you guys in any way that we can to live life no matter what. I love that Brian is my caregiver, and honestly, it enables our entire travel life, and I think that it is ideal for us. We get to travel around in our camper van. I am disabled and probably couldn't do this alone. So having Brian as my caregiver, I just think it's the perfect dynamic for our relationship and our travel life. And to be honest, it totally enables it until we can grow other forms of income.